and opening statements. Mr. Newman.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is going to show you a lot of evidence. It's going to show you that Tina Stewart and Shanterrica Madden became apartment mates in the fall of 2010. They did not know each other prior to being paired as apartment mates, and they were paired by the Raiders Crossing Apartments. They were not always the best of friends, and a matter of fact, I think you'll find that there were some problems. The week of March 2nd, 2011, or the week before that, Shanterrica Madden had been staying with a friend, had been staying at the apartment. She had been staying at Corlew Hall Dormitory, which is a dormitory on the MTSU campus. Then on the late afternoon hours of March the 2nd, 2011, the day that all this happened, Shanterrica Madden was on the MTSU campus attending classes, and she met another friend of hers, a Renee Reese. These two young women decide to walk to the Raiders Crossing Apartments, apartment 321. That apartment 321 is the apartment that was shared by Shanterrica Madden and Tina Stewart. Let me stop here just for a moment and explain to you the setup on this apartment. The Raiders Crossing Apartments are predominantly occupied by MTSU students. The apartments are often occupied by two or more persons, and these persons are what I would call apartment mates. Why did I not say roommates? You may have noticed that, because it is a different situation than what you and I are normally accustomed to in the roommate situation. And let me explain it to you. Tina Stewart and Shanterrica Madden did not share a dorm room. This was not a dormitory, it was an apartment, and it was a special type of apartment. At Raiders Crossing, some students choose their apartment mates, and some students are assigned their apartment mates by the staff. In this case, they were assigned by the staff. Tina Stewart and Shanterrica Madden each had separate bedrooms. Each of the bedrooms had a door, and on each door there was a lock. It was a keyed lock. The apartment mates did not have a key to the other one's bedroom. Each of the apartment mates had a separate bathroom. Each bathroom, of course, had a door, and the door had a keyed lock. The other apartment mate would not have the key to the other one's bathroom lock. The apartment mates, however, did share a common area, and that common area included the kitchen and the living room. And the apartment mates were also given a designation by Raiders Crossing Apartments. It was either A or B. The designation was used to help delineate whose area was whose. The designation for the bedroom and private area of Shanterrica Madden was 321A. The designation for the bedroom and private area of Tina Stewart was 321B. The events that bring us here today occurred in 321B, Tina Stewart's private bedroom, and not in Shanterrica Madden's bedroom, and not in the common area. You will hear from Renee Reese. She will tell you that she and Shanterrica Madden went to the Stewart Madden apartment to smoke marijuana. When Madden and Reese arrive at the apartment, they think that Tina Stewart is not there. Tina Stewart is there. She is in her private apartment bedroom behind her locked door. After a while, there is a knock on the door, and the person at the door is Tim Jensen. Tim Jensen is a Murfreesboro City police officer, and to supplement his income, Officer Jensen is also employed by the Raiders Crossing Apartments as what is called a courtesy officer, a security officer. Officer Jensen will testify, and he will tell you that he arrived on the scene in response to a phone call from his staff member, Jennifer Davidson, who was a staff member at the Raiders Crossing Apartments. She had called him concerning a complaint call from Tina Stewart. The nature of the complaint was that her roommate was smoking marijuana. Why would Tina Stewart call and complain on Miss Madden? Tina Stewart was a student athlete at MTSU. She was on a basketball scholarship. Both her father and her coach had stressed to her that being around marijuana and people smoking marijuana could cause her to fail a drug test. Failing a drug test would have jeopardized Tina Stewart's scholarship and her future. Tina Stewart was the first member of her family to go to college. After receiving this call, Officer Jensen went to the apartment and he asked Miss Madden if he could search the room, 321A, her bedroom. He looked around the room and he found a marijuana roach in the ashtray. He told Miss Madden to flush it down the toilet. He then spoke to her outside for a little while, and then Officer Jensen left. Immediately after Officer Jensen leaves, Miss Madden goes to Miss Stewart's door to confront her. The door was locked. She knocks on the door. When the door is opened, Tina Stewart was on her cell phone. Miss Madden asked her why she called the police on her. They got into a verbal altercation, and then they got into a physical altercation. And before the episode ended, Tina Stewart had been mortally wounded, stabbed to death. Renee Reese, who I've told you about earlier, Shanterrica Madden's friend, will tell you that as the fight progressed, she went to Miss Madden's room and closed the door. And then later, she sees Miss Reese sees Miss Madden, leaving Tina Stewart's room. Renee Reese also sees that there's blood on Shanterrica Madden's arm, and she has a blanket wrapped around her arm. Shanterrica Madden tells Renee Reese that she had been cut. She also says Tina Stewart's okay. This was not true. This was not true. Shanterrica Madden had not been cut, and Tina Stewart was not okay. Renee Reese also saw a broken knife fall out of the blanket. The knife was later recovered by police and tested. Tina Stewart's blood was found on that knife. And Renee Reese also observed Miss Madden put the knife and the blanket in a clear plastic garbage bag. Renee Reese decides it's time for me to leave, and she leaves, walks out of the apartment, and she called her friend Shelby Humphrey to come and pick her up. Miss Madden also came outside, and Miss Reese made another observation. Miss Reese saw Tina Stewart's cell phone in Shanterrica Madden's bra. Miss Reese says that when Miss Madden saw that she saw the cell phone, that Miss Madden pushes it deeper into her bra. The cell phone is the same cell phone that Tina Stewart was on when Miss Madden first entered that room. The phone was found later by the police. It was found inside the apartment, but not in the bedroom. It was found on a sofa in the living room. According to Miss Madden, after she had left Tina Stewart's bedroom after stabbing her, as she's leaving, she turns off the light and she closes the door. And that she went back a second time minutes later to check on her to see if she was alive. And she tells the police she goes back to see if she is still breathing And after checking, and she checks visually, she doesn't touch her. She once again turns off the light and once again closes the door. And Shanterrica Madden continues preparing to leave. Miss Madden also hid the murder weapon. Remember the broken serrated blade knife, the kitchen knife, the one that she put in the plastic bag with the blanket? That was later found in the apartment dumpster by the police, of course. And also found in the dumpster was Tina Stewart's MTSU jacket. That jacket had Tina Stewart's blood on it. Also found in the dumpster were two more serrated blade kitchen knives that matched the murder weapon. She threw away a lot of evidence to conceal her involvement in this case. However, she made a mistake regarding those knives. Remember, you got the broken knife, you got the two knives that were found in the dumpster. Usually knives are bought in a series of 4 or 8, so we probably have another missing knife, and we do. And Miss Madden had missed that. The police found it. They found that 4th matching knife in the dishwasher in the apartment. The proof will show that Miss Shanterrica Madden did many things after the stabbing, but none, absolutely none, of those things were designed to help Tina Stewart live. Shanterrica Madden chose to let her die. She did nothing to render aid or comfort. She did nothing to seek medical help for the person she had stabbed. She never called 911. Instead, the proof will show you that her actions actually prevented anyone else from giving her assistance. I want you to consider this, and this is important. The phone records support that these violent events, which led to Tina Stewart's death, started somewhere around 6:04 to 6:10 p.m. We know that because Tina Stewart was on the phone when the incident started. She was on the phone with Shanterrica Madden. Miss Madden heard the argument as it began and part of the fight, and then the phone went dead. Miss Madden tried to call back, but there was no answer. The proof will show, and the medical examiner will testify, that after suffering her wounds, Tina Stewart would have only lived for 5 to 10 minutes after being stabbed. And from that, it's obvious that no later than 6:25 p.m., Tina Stewart was dying or was dead. During this time, several people try to call her, calls her phone. The phone is ringing over and over. Miss Stewart's father calls. Casey Anuna, the boyfriend, calls. Miss Macklin tries to call. And then a very strange thing happens, and this is important. Someone other than Tina Stewart used Tina Stewart's phone and sent out 2 text messages. The first text message was to Tina Stewart's boyfriend, Casey Anuna. Mr. Anuna was one of several people trying to call Tina Stewart. The first text message from Tina Stewart's phone was at 6:29 p.m. 6:29. And it read, "I about to get in the shower. I about to get in the shower." And then approximately 20 minutes later, another strange text message is sent. The second text message was to Shanterrica Madden, who had also been trying to get a hold of Tina Stewart. The second text message was sent from Tina Stewart's phone at 6:50 p.m. And it read, "I am out of the shower." Tina Stewart did not send those 2 text messages. The proof will show that those 2 text messages effectively delayed anyone else from coming over to Tina Stewart's apartment. And they served another purpose. They also gave Shanterrica Madden time to destroy evidence, time to pack her bag, time to make sure Tina Stewart was dead, time to flee the scene, and time to come up with a story. And with these text messages, she has caused confusion on the time of death. And finally, time to come up with a story to blame someone else for Tina Stewart's death. The proof will show, however, that a problem developed, and that is that just before Miss Madden left and walked out the door, Casey Anuna, Tina Stewart's boyfriend, arrived at the apartment. He asked where Tina Stewart was. Miss Madden lied to him. She told him that Tina Stewart was not there. And at first, Mr. Anuna believed her, but he decided to check for himself. He went to her room and found her lying on the floor after he turned on the light. He confronted Miss Madden, and she ran out of the apartment. She was later apprehended by the police. The police arrest her, read her rights, and then later she's interviewed by Detective Taylor. Let's look at some of those interview highlights. Her first story she told Detective Taylor. And you will see the videotape, and it will probably be broken into a couple of segments so it won't be so long. But she tells Detective Taylor that after Officer Jensen left, she went to Tina Stewart's door, that it was locked, and she knocked on the door. Miss Madden said Tina Stewart was on the phone talking or texting. Miss Madden also said, we got into a heated argument. We fought. She said Tina Stewart slammed her head and that she, Miss Madden, was pounding Tina Stewart's face. That Miss Stewart told her to get out of her room, and so she left. Miss Madden also says that Tina Stewart got her stuff, put on her jacket, and walked out of the door without her keys. Miss Madden says that she left too, and that she walked around outside. And also said that while she was outside, she saw a man, a black man with dreads, about 5 foot 6 inches tall, and that man had been to the apartment twice before looking for Tina Stewart. And she says that when he came there, he was in a rage, and he was looking for Tina Stewart, and she actually even describes the car. She tells the police, I did not kill Tina Stewart. Renee Reese did not kill Tina Stewart. When I left the apartment, Tina Stewart was fine. And the only person I saw outside that night was that man. Let's look at her second story. In this segment, Detective Taylor sees the problems that she's got as far as the proof, and he asks her if she wants to go back over it again. And she says yes, and here's what she says this time. After Jensen left, I went and I knocked on the door, and when she unlocked it, we just argued right after that. She was watching TV, and she was texting because she was on the phone. I turned around and was headed to my room, and I think I kind of bumped her. She was like, don't bump into me. And she shoved me, and I shoved her back. And she had a knife. I think it was on the bed. And I grabbed that knife because she still had my head down and was pounding my head. And I grabbed that knife, and I kind of went like this because she was coming towards me, and I went like this. And I held it out, and she fell. And she says that Renee Reese had shut the door through the whole process. And she says Renee Reese left. Then she says, and I come back into my room, and I got through with my clothes. I put my clothes in the dryer because I just took them out of the washing machine before the police, she's talking about Jensen, shows up. She also said, I had a friend, and I called her to come get me. And I didn't want to tell her the whole story. I just wanted to keep it at a minimum and just wait. And Tina, she wasn't moving. She was just sitting there. And I just shut the door and turned off the light, and I went outside and walked around the parking lot. And outside I called my friend, I called my mom, and later I went back upstairs. And then her boyfriend, he bust through the door, and he kind of looked at me, and I was like, she's not here. And I just told him that so he wouldn't be worried. And he went back and opened the door and turned on the light and started yelling. And I had my bag on my shoulder. And so I start running out of the door. Detective Taylor also asked follow-up questions. He asked, now after this happened, and he's talking about the stabbing, what did Tina Stewart do? Miss Madden tells him she just fell. He also asked, right there by her bed? And Shanterrica Madden says, uh-huh. Detective Taylor also asked, did she say anything? The answer is, no, she just fell. Shanterrica Madden goes on to say, I left the room and shut the door and went to my room. And then I got up and went to the kitchen because I still had some clothes in there. Detective Taylor says, I know a lot happened, but how long after this took place was it when the boyfriend came in? Shanterrica Madden says, I don't know, 30 minutes? Detective Taylor also asked, now between these two times, between the time you left her room and between the time the boyfriend came in, did you ever go back in there to check on her, Tina Stewart? Did you ever check on Tina Stewart? Miss Madden responds, nuh-uh. And then she says, well, I went in to see if she was breathing, but I didn't want to touch her. I just kind of wanted to listen to the sound. She was just sitting there. She wasn't moving. Detective Taylor asked, was she breathing? Do you know? Shanterrica Madden responds, nuh-uh. Detective Taylor also asked her about the knife. Miss Madden says, I can't remember if I dropped it when I was outside or if I dropped it while I was walking around and talking. It could be somewhere in the apartment. And she also gave a written statement. And as you count them, this is either the third or the fourth, depending on how you count these. But there is a major discrepancy in the written statement. She writes that she stabbed Tina Stewart one time. That she stabbed Tina Stewart one time. Let's examine the 4 injuries listed in the autopsy report. Dr. Amy McMaster performed the autopsy. She will testify. She will tell you some very important facts. She will tell you that Tina Stewart was 21 years of age at the time of her death, that she was 5 foot 3 inches tall, and she weighed 131 pounds. Dr. McMaster will tell you she documented 4 fresh injuries to the body of Tina Stewart. Injury number 1, a stab wound to the right side of Tina Stewart's chest, and she says the stab wound penetrated the chest to a depth of 2 inches, and she says that the path was downward. She says that that particular stab wound cut the aorta, the main artery of the heart, and it also pierced the right lung. Now for injury number 2. A stab wound to the back of the left shoulder with patterned linear abrasions. And we'll explain through her testimony what all that is. But a second stab wound. Linear abrasions that the state will submit to you was caused by the lines when you take a serrated blade knife and it comes across the surface. It's going to give you linear patterns. Injury number 3, a parallel linear abrasion or cut on Tina Stewart's left upper arm. Dr. McMaster will tell you that because of the limited depth, it wasn't deep, of the injury, she cannot tell you whether this was an abrasion or a cut or incised wound. She will tell you that it was not a carpet burn, and it was caused by Tina Stewart's arm coming into contact with a hard or a firm object. And then injury number 4, a stab wound in the hairline of Tina Stewart's head. You will see the photographs of these wounds. You'll examine them yourself. Obviously, the most serious injury or the most serious wound was the one to the chest that cut Tina Stewart's heart artery, the aorta, and pierced her lung. Dr. McMaster will tell you that this stab wound was the one that caused her death. She will tell you that Tina Stewart, she bled to death. She lists the manner of death as homicide, and she tells you that the chest wound, the one that killed her, was accomplished with force. With force. She will tell you that it takes force to penetrate the human skin and go in the chest area to a depth of 2 inches. She will tell you that the wound also would have been painful. And she'll tell you that because it pierced the lung, that Tina Stewart would experience shortness of breath. She would have trouble breathing. And because of the lack of breathing capacity and the unbridled loss of blood from having your aorta cut, that Tina Stewart would become weaker and weaker and weaker as time passed. Dr. McMaster will tell you that unless Tina Stewart had gotten immediate medical treatment, she would die. She will estimate that the time it took for Tina Stewart to expire, to pass away, was 5 to 10 minutes. The proof will show that Shanterrica Madden, after having the police called on her by Tina Stewart, did the following acts, and did those acts prior to killing Tina Stewart. Shanterrica Madden went to Tina Stewart's room. She got herself involved in a verbal altercation. She got herself involved in a physical altercation. At some point, she armed herself with a knife, a deadly weapon that she used against an unarmed person. You will not hear any testimony that Tina Stewart ever had any weapon of any description, none whatsoever. Shanterrica Madden stabbed Tina Stewart multiple times. She turned off the light, she closed the door, and left Tina Stewart to die alone and in the dark. And then let's look at some of the things she did after the stabbing. She took steps to conceal her crime. She threw away the murder weapon. She threw away other knives in the apartment, knives that could be linked to the murder weapon. She threw away Tina Stewart's jacket that had her blood on it. She threw away Tina Stewart's blanket that had blood on it. She took Tina Stewart's cell phone from her bedroom and left it in the living room. And she continues to prepare to leave while Tina Stewart is dead or dying. It was more important to Shanterrica Madden, the proof will show that it was more important to her to finish her laundry than to get Tina Stewart help. She acts with purpose and calmness. She calls for someone to pick her up. She doesn't attempt to render any aid. She does not call for medical help. She doesn't call 911. She did say that she checked on Tina Stewart to see if she was dead. Not to help her, but to see if she had died yet. She also took steps to prevent anyone else from helping Tina Stewart. She sent out those 2 false text messages. And when Casey Anuna arrived, she lied to him and said that Tina Stewart was not there. The judge will tell you what you can consider when you are determining whether this is first-degree murder, whether the killing was intentional, and whether the killing was with premeditation. I submit to you, when you consider all the facts and circumstances of this case, you will find that this murder was intentional and this murder was premeditated, and that the murder of Tina Stewart was murder in the first degree.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Brown. Now, me statements.